Hello and welcome everyone to another live sessions brought to you by chess.com and Daniel Wrench. Well, here we go again, right? And let's hope we have a good game to go over. Let's hope Danny doesn't lose, right? That's first and foremost. And let's see what happens. So we have e4. Well, we can mix it up. We've played some Sicilians recently. Why don't we play e5 and see what happens? Knight f3, knight c6. Well, as I've told everybody, I've been working a lot on e5, expanding my repertoire outside of the crazy, complicated Sicilians. So this guy, rather than playing the Ruy Lopez, you know, more often seen Ruy Lopez, we're seeing a bishop c4. Maybe he'll play a fried liver, you know, who knows? Maybe he'll play knight g5 here. Okay, no. So, and normally, again, instead of knight c3, you might see d3. Which is a regular way to play the Giuoco piano. Knight to c3 this is kind of like standard development. It's funny because this is not something that's really bad for white. It's pretty straightforward. In fact, Roman Gingi just had this series on the four knights, right? But this particular move order, what I'm saying is just straight development is not really bad for white, but this particular move order doesn't put a lot of pressure on black to know exactly what he's doing either, because both sides are really just trying to complete their development. It's a very classical, very old school way to play chess. And so rather than just copying him with bishop c5 and giving him the opportunity to put pressure, when I face this line, I like to kind of impose my own will and play bishop b4, immediately trying to change the nature of the game, start putting some threats in the position. And after d3, which is what he did, usually I can get away with this move d5, changing the center here, opening up the position, and I'm going to try to expose the fact that I'm kind of up a developing move over my opponent, because I believe the opening center has favored me. Probably bishop d2 is considered the best move, based on the fact that if he unpins the knight, he still hasn't given up the bishop pair. But maybe here this guy thinks he can take my queen. He's a pretty good player, so, you know, I don't know, very classical way to develop here. Nothing special. So he plays, but I mean, despite the fact he's a decent player, this is, you know, a pretty, I don't know, I don't want to say subpar, but kind of a strange way to choose to start the game if you're white and you want to really get pressure on the position, because the position has become open in a way that probably favors black, and I have the bishop pair. I'd like to get castled and perhaps put my bishop on g4, you know, pin his knight to his queen, maybe have threats of knight to d4. So I'll probably just castle first. I like to get castled. I'm not going to lie. It's one of my favorite things to do, castling, right? I mean, what do you get when you castle? You get king safety, you get coordination. I mean, isn't castling just wonderful? Whoever invented that was awesome. Cheers to you. Okay, knight e4. He wants to trade off pieces. Well, my opponent has less space. What do we do when we have more space? We don't trade. We retreat. We want to maintain our space advantage, and I'd still like to get my bishop on g4 to pin his knight, where I perhaps have the potential threat of playing knight to d4, and maybe also I'll have the potential threat of playing f5 myself to try to start creating attacking chances on the king side. Okay, so he plays bishop c3. All right, so despite kind of a passive to start, he's played some pretty natural moves here, and now we have a decision to make. If I play f5, which looks really cute because it attacks the knight on e4, he's going to go back to g3 with his knight and force his knight on f3 to become unpinned. If f5, knight g3, if I have to retreat my bishop because it's hanging, then he's going to win my e5 pawn. If f5, knight g3, and I have to take on f3, well, there goes the bishop pair, right? So much for that idea. So I don't think f5 is very good anymore. And the other point to make is that if I play knight to d4 and he plays g4, what do I do there? If knight d4, g4, if I just simply move the bishop, then he can win a pawn on e5. And if I take on f3, he takes with the queen. After knight d4, g4, knight takes f3, queen takes f3. Then I retreat the bishop. Once again, his bishop takes e5. So actually, despite the passive development, well, we knew this guy was a good player, and we're glad that he's not playing like an idiot. So maybe my criticism of his opening was a little bit unfounded. But you know, when is not, you know, being afraid to stick my foot in my mouth ever stopped me from saying something stupid, right? You guys know that. So what do? He's attacking the e5 pawn, people. I think we're still better. We have the bishop pair. We have the potential to do these different ideas of gaining space. But I got to make sure that we don't miscalculate something, because he's actually threatening to play the move g4 in this particular position. I don't want to take on f3 because I want to keep the bishop pair. I'm selfish. Let's see. Maybe I can play queen to d5, which defends the e5 pawn. And if he plays g4, I play bishop g6. He still can't take e5. He can move his knight from e4 to try to attack e5. But maybe then I can play something like bishop d6, or perhaps even f6 to just sort of hold down the fort. Queen d5 looks good. And maybe then I can bring my other rooks over. I've got about 10 and a half minutes. He's got about 14 minutes here. So we'll try to keep a little bit of an eye on that time situation. But I like my position. And, okay, this is not, again, I know you guys have really looking forward to when we start playing more live session matches against the other chess.com coaches. But we all got a number of things going on, so I want to keep the live sessions rolling, since they seem to be very instructive and enjoyable for everyone. So despite not playing necessarily the strongest opponent or someone else you guys know, I hopefully you'll still enjoy this. But it's instructive nonetheless anyway, because a lot of amateur players are e4, e5 players. And if you play e4, e5, unless you've learned a lot of theory of the Ruy Lopez or the Scotch or one of the mainline weapons, seeing these different examples of just simply knight f3 and knight to c3 and sort of classical development, romantic style development, seeing a lot of those things can happen a lot. So seeing maybe how I face the position, my early approach of playing d5, maybe that's something you can do as black when you face this type of classical development for white. So he played g4, despite the drawbacks that this does to his king side. Okay, yawn. That's right, I just yawned, so I'm sorry about that. And he retreated the knight as I thought he might, because he wanted to increase his pressure on the e5 pawn. This is what I thought might happen, but that's why before we went for it, I said I thought I would have bishop d6 in a situation like this. Now I'd like to bring my a rook to e8 and play for f5 now to take advantage of his open king. But okay, this guy has no mercy. He says, you know what, I'm going to checkmate you, Papa Bear. And you know what Papa Bear thinks about that? No way, Jose. So after h4, okay, what do? He's threatening h5, trap my bishop. If I play h6 and he plays h5, I got to go back to h7. Again, I'm not really that afraid. Whenever your opponent starts rolling the pawns in front of his own king, unless he's crushing you, so calculate and make sure you don't blunder. But unless he's crushing you, you always have a chance in those games. Even if he's rolling you for a little while, the fact that he's completely exposed his own king means that positionally he's bankrupt down the road. So you have to make sure that you make some accurate defensive and prophylactic moves, but from a psychological standpoint, you should be happy when your opponent does this sort of opening of his own king. And I am. So if I play f5, and then he plays h5, and I take, and he takes, and I take on f6, on f3, and he takes on h7, with check, and I move my king. That's an okay position for me. I have a pawn on f3, so again, if f5, h5, chop, 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 he takes h7, I move. The position is roughly equal in terms of material, but whose king is more open? Probably his king, but again, I don't really feel the need to go for something crazy like that. If f5, h5 takes g4, takes g6, I take f3, he takes h7, I move my king. I can double rooks on the f file. I think it's actually a good position for me. But again, I'm not worried about his attack. I don't think I'm going to get checkmated. So I'm going to play h6. Let's see what he does. I'd still like to just bring my other rook to e8 and sort of open the center under more favorable circumstances for me. Because now the position starts to become open, potentially we are better, again, because of his aggressive neglect, as we'll call it, right? That sounds like some sort of family dysfunction, aggressive neglect, right? Because of his aggressive neglect of his own king, he's aggressively moving the pawns but neglecting his own safety. I trust that eventually we will be able to take advantage of his open king. But again, he continues to aggressively neglect his situation, so he's calling our bluff. Either this is going to work for us or not. Well, I'd like to just start to open the position a little bit and get my rooks going and all that stuff, but exactly how do I do this? If I play rook a to e8, he's going to take h6 and I have to take it. And then, my king's a little bit open. So is his, obviously. But In fact, maybe that's okay. If I play rook 88 and he takes h6 and I take with the pawn, I can bring my rook up to e6 eventually and defend h6 after he obviously is going to play queen to d2. And then I can still put my king on h8, bring my other rook to g8. Probably those positions should favor me. In fact, he can't even play queen d2 immediately after rook a8 takes. He can't play queen to d2 because his knight on f3 is hanging. So, I don't know, let's do it. What the heck, right? And we could have taken on g5, and then his knight would have taken, and he would have won back the bishop pair. But I didn't even see a reason to do that, because I thought he might go for some idea like this, and I said, you know what? Nay. Nay, will you get your knight to f5. Nay, as Shakespeare would say, right? I like our chances. Okay, again, so he's going to do this. The question is, do we play rook to e6? Which not only defends h6, but also defends g6 from his knight hopping in? Or do we play f4 right away and call it and say, like, you know, what are you doing, big guy? But no, let's just play e6. Again, maintain the tension. I'm not exactly sure the potential yet I have to immediately open his king. So I'm going to kind of bring pieces over, trusting that hopefully I can push f4, e4, and his king will be more open than my own, because I can hide on h8. Now, you can say, well, he can hide on h2 too. Yeah, but he's already advanced his h-pawn a lot further. I'm not sure his king has as much natural safety as mine does. So if I play f4 and he moves the knight to e4, I take, he takes, I may have to trade queens there, which, you know, okay, black's probably doing okay, but why even do it? Let's see, let's do something that calls out how open his king might be. It should be more weak than ours. At least I was hoping that would be the case. So I'm looking at some idea of like knight to d4. You know, and if he takes, I take with the pawn, and then all of a sudden, my bishop on d6 is open toward his king on h2, and if he trades e6, I take. But you know, I don't know. Maybe I really misplayed this position. All of a sudden, he's got rook g1 coming, and my king may be in just as much danger as his. The nice thing if I play king h8 is that if he plays rook g1, I can play f4 then. And in that situation, if he plays knight e4, I'll simply take, and take with the queen, winning a pawn. Actually, no, because if I play king h8, rook g1, f4, knight e4, take, queen takes, he has knight to g6 check in the end. Darn it. Okay, let's attack his knight and say, get out of my house. Don't bring it in my house, right? And, well, if we attack his knight, my thought is that he has to put knight on g2, and then I was hoping that I could bring my bishop to g5. And then maybe put my knight on d4 at some point. But I'm not going to lie, I feel like I've misplayed this position slightly. His king, his attacking chances seem to be a little bit better than I thought they would be, to be completely honest with you. And I don't like that I can't really ever play e4 without him just taking, and I have to trade queens. So the idea of keeping my bishop on d6 wasn't as attractive anymore. And if I play f4, he's going to put the knight on e4 anyway. So figure I'll attack his knight, force him to put his knight on g2, or maybe he'll go crazy. You never know. But when he does put his knight on g2, I wanted to bring my queen to f3. This was my idea. Because when the knight leaves h4, I have queen to f3, threatening to play f4, kicking out his knight from g3, and therefore winning the h5 pawn. But if knight g2, queen f3, he may play queen d2. Okay, so he goes a little bit nutso, right? He decides it's time for him to sacrifice the h4 knight so that he can play knight takes f5 with discovered check. And if I play bishop to g5, he has knight to h6. Knight takes h6 check, and then if I take with the rook, he has queen takes g5, and maybe that's not even nuts. Maybe he's actually winning. But let's see. Let's calculate a winning combination here, people. Bishop takes h4, knight takes f5 check, bishop to g5. Only way to keep the winning idea going is knight takes h6. After rook takes h6, or king to h8. If I play king to h8 and he plays queen takes g5, I also have rook takes f2 in the end with check. King has to move to g3 or h3, and where would my knockout blow be? Hard to see a knockout blow in that position, actually. If bishop takes h4, knight takes f5 check, bishop to g5, knight takes h6 check, rook takes h6, queen takes h6, queen takes g5 check. If I play bishop to g6, he has to play queen takes h6, because his pawn on h5 is pinned to the king on h2. So again, if bishop g5... bishop takes h4, knight takes f5 check, bishop g5, knight takes h6, rook takes h6, queen takes g5, bishop g6. If queen takes h6, I have rook takes f2 check. If king to g3, I have queen to f3 check, only move is king h4, rook h2 check, only move is king to g5, and queen f5 is checkmate. if king h3 and I have this move, queen to f3 check, but now he has rook to g3. But his queen is on h6, right? He took the rook, so I have queen to f5 check actually too. And if he plays rook to g4, I have rook to f3 check. He moves, and then I play queen takes on g4 at some point. Okay, I can obviously after rook g1, I can just play the move king to h8 and just eliminate this. But if you have an opportunity to calculate a knockout blow, you have to take the opportunity. You can't always just play for prophylactic and general principles. So that's why I'm calculating it. But that said, as I randomly talk myself to death, I'm about to lose on time, as usual. And you guys will enjoy Danny Scramble and reveal his true psycho self, and everyone will laugh. We'll have a good time, right? Good times. After bishop takes h4, knight takes f5, bishop g5, knight takes h6, rook takes h6, queen takes g5, bishop g6, queen takes h6, rook takes f2, king h3. Where is the knockout blow, Billy Joel? Queen f3, rook g3, queen f5 check, rook to g4. I mean, I have at least a draw there, so I guess I should just go for it. Yeah, what the heck, right? Got at least a draw. Got to do it. Got to do it. I can't do it, Captain. I don't have the power. Right? You got a huge noggin. It's like a cranium, like an orange on a toothpick. Huge head. Right? Waving that huge cranium about. Got a huge noggin. What am I talking about? I keep forgetting that I'm actually being recorded, right? I mean, that's a problem. I need to be a little bit more self-conscious, not as nuts. So, okay, this was exactly the combination I calculated, and I was basing it on the fact that in the end of the line I have this rook takes f2 check. I'm hoping that was accurate calculation. If he doesn't take the rook, I'm going to play king to g7. So then even if he wins the bishop back, I still have two open lines with the rook toward the king. Like, let's say if he plays something like rook a to f1 here. I can't take h5 with the rook because he'll take with the queen. But I can play the move king to g7. And then he has problems taking my rook on h6, and so he's probably lost there because he's kind of down a piece. Can't take the bishop on g6 because the pawn's pinned. Can't take the rook either. So I think he's got to take the rook. I'm going to play rook takes f2 check. He's going to play king to h3, and I was hoping there was a knockout there. Queen to f3, rook to g3, queen to f5 check. If king h4, we have rook h2, which is going to be made. So the only move I saw was rook to g4. But then the problem was that on rook f3 check, he can go back to h2, and I don't really see anything better than just taking his rook on g4, after which he can play queen takes g6, and after I trade, he takes. We're in an equal position. I do have rook f2 check in the end going after the c2 pawn, but also my e5 pawn is isolated. It might be hard to win that endgame. Maybe it is. Maybe it is a win. Okay, let's look at that. If he plays queen takes h6, and I play rook takes f2, king h3, queen f3 check, rook g3, queen f5 check, rook g4, rook f3, king h2, queen takes g4. He plays queen takes g6, queen takes g6, h takes g6, rook f2 check. The king moves, and I take the c2 pawn. In the end, I can pick up the g6 pawn with something simple like king to g7. Right? I mean, that's possible. So what else? What else can he do here? If queen takes h6, rook takes f2 check, king to e8, king to h3, queen to f3. Is there any other move? No, I have to play queen to f3, and then he is going to play. Okay, he didn't. But you are making a huge mistake, I believe. Okay, if I play king to g7, he can't take the rook, can't take the bishop, but he can play king to g1. Then he would like to be threatening to take the bishop, but what if I play king h7? Then if he plays king g1, but I still can't take h5 with the rook because queen takes g6, and can't take with the bishop because queen g7 is made. So we have a problem with that. If king to g7, he moves the king, we got to find some way to continue to get in there. Queen to f3 maybe, then he takes g6, but I don't really see any knockout. I got to be worried about him taking the e5 pawn with check at some point too. So this is still very risky. Still maybe no bueno. I can play king h7, and on king to g1, what would I play? Rook to f5, but then he can take g6 with check. I lose. I only have 2 minutes and 15 seconds. He has 8 minutes. Okay, so this is bad. This was a really good start, but let's finish it off now, Danny. Come on, focus. All right, I see an idea. King h7. Okay, my idea is that on king to g1, I'm going to play rook f to g8 because he can't go to e7 with check. My knight on c6 guards it. So if he plays king to g1, I play rook f to g8, and if he takes g6, I play rook g takes g6, and I think that's winning for us, right? If he had brought the other rook over to g1, the thing about king h7 was better than king g7 because I was also unpinning the bishop so that I could take on h5 with check. So now, for king g1, I have rook f to g8. If he takes g6, I'm playing rook g takes. Ooh, I did not see that move at all, but he did not see that move, now did he? And let's hope that that pays off. Okay, well, what if he just takes with the king, Danny? Good job on that one. Or that move. But what about that move? Uh-oh. He just takes on g8. Ouchtown. Population, Danny. I can't believe that. After all that, we're going to lose this game after doing so well. I just played such an idiot. After bishop d2, I should have just taken on h5 with the rook, and it was lights out. Why did I play queen takes g2? I do not know. I'm completely lost. Sorry, there's a bug in my face. Man, what an idiot is Danny. I mean, seriously, after bishop d2, wasn't rook takes h5 just lights out? Completely winning. Well, I guess this is our only chance to try to make some magic happen. We got to try to blitz and flag, and we're down the exchange, and therefore completely lost. But you know, we're hoping for a miracle, as they say, right? We are praying for a miracle, and I just blundered my knight after b6. He's going to play. I think this is going to be a loss for me. Okay, well, he didn't see it. Thank the Lord. And so after b6, I should have been resigning after rook h6 check. This is going to be my first loss on live sessions. If I win this game, I really get a medal. Well, I haven't lost yet in these live sessions games, and it looks like the time might have finally come. But we will see. I will try my best. I have a minute and a half. He has 6.5 minutes. I will give a valiant effort to hold this position somehow. And I have to defend in this way. I'm going to try to solidify like a blockade sort of situation in this position, and hope that I can draw with a blockading idea. But okay, maybe here already we are running into some problems, right, in terms of the blockade, because I can't play a5 because then he has b3 trapping my knight. Maybe I can go back to d6. So maybe I should have just played a5 there. That was stupid. Should have played a5. All right, well, after a6, maybe now I'll just try to get the pawns on a4, b5, and c6. Whenever you're losing, you got to pick your goal positions. Well, at least if I can get that position, I might have a chance to draw, right? So that's what my practical approach is here. Try to get a drawn blockade position, and I have to do it quickly, only having a minute and a half to his 5.5 minutes. So we're going to do our best to not only create a blockade, but do it quickly, and hope that maybe if we create a situation like that, a little bit of pre-moving on the internet chess might help us, because pre-moving saves a lot of time, and who knows, maybe he blunders, right? But I don't think so. I think we are about to see my first loss. So, okay, so he sees this idea where he wants to play b3 and trap my knight, but I'm going to play b5, and therefore give my knight an escape square to b6. So I'm going to play knight to b6, and now I'm going to play a4 and hope that I can, again, like I said, continue to hold this position on the light squares. You know, I'm basing that on the fact that there might be a chance to hold the position on the light squares, because he really hasn't done a very good job of challenging the light squares to this point. He's kind of allowed me to create this blockade, so I'm going to be happy with what he's allowed me to do, to be honest with you. I'm not going to lie. Kind of happy with it. Who knows, maybe he'll checkmate himself over here, right? Okay, well, now I can try to relocate my knight to c4, hitting the bishop. Oh, I'm also threatening to just simply take on c3. And if I take on c3, He takes the bishop, I take, maybe then the d pawn hangs, right? So it's not over yet. Not over till the fat lady sings. And the fat lady has not sung yet, although I do believe that the skinny lady is warming up and she is going to belt it. And when she belts it, I'm going to be in trouble. But, okay, what is he doing? All right, well, I have to go for this, right? I mean, I almost don't want to play knight takes c3 because he played like such a moron. But I think I have to play this way. I mean, I'm going to take on c3, and he's going to take, and I'm going to take, and I think I've almost achieved a draw. Maybe this is not Danny's first loss. Okay, what exactly are you doing here, sister? What exactly are you doing? I am thrilled with what you are deciding to do as the best move in this position. I do not agree with you about what the best way is for you to play this. So now I need to bring my king to c4. I'm going to try to play for c5. Okay, he gives some stupid check. What's he doing here? He's doing nothing. I mean, I can't really win. Okay, I still only have 45 seconds. That's what he's playing for. He's playing to flag me. Okay, what are you going to do? Take a draw? Sister, I'm still lost. Don't be an idiot. Okay, so he decides not to be an idiot. Oh, I just blundered my knight because I didn't have any time. I can't believe I just did that. It is going to be my first loss. I don't have any time left on my clock. 30 seconds. I wanted to get my knight to d3 check. What an idiot I am. I have no real chance, of course. I'm just pre-moving because you guys are watching me on live sessions and I feel like I owe you that much. I owe you that much. But what exactly is this guy's deal? I mean, seriously. He doesn't even deserve to beat me in this game. It's insane. I mean, he's doing nothing but playing for a flag when he's up a rook. It's insane. He's not making any progress. And all I did was completely blunder away this game twice. After bishop b2, if I would just take on h5 with the rook, I was completely winning. But, you know, all good things must come to an end, as they say. Looks like I am about to lose. After rook h7, I think I'm finally busted. He's winning checkmate. Can't really stop it if he plays rook h7. Oh, I have b4 check, so I'll postpone for a little bit longer. I mean, this guy just plays so horribly, I have to keep playing on, right? I mean, that's what's going on. I have to keep playing on. It's the most logical thing to do, because he still has not exactly figured out how to win up an entire rook, and that is fine by me. Not my problem. So let's see. Only have 30 seconds left still, but I've been basically pre-moving. Wow. I can't stop rook a5 mate. Okay, so he finally beat me. Well, that was horrible. And, you know, as we can see from me backing up in this position, if I had not played knight to f4, and done pretty much anything else here, the game is an easy draw for black. You know, at this point he screwed it up enough that, you know, maybe he was going to make me better in a sec. I could bring the knight around this way to attack it. If he gives checks, I can go back and forth. So I had at least drawn the game by him misplaying the endgame. I did a good job blocking the queen side, but obviously I thought that bishop d2, I thought the queen takes g2 was lights out. I forgot about this idea of him taking on g8. And so instead of taking on g2, I think my defense was accurate here, and after a move like this, he can resign. Now he's simply down a piece. He has no tactics, can't take anything without losing immediately. And then if he retreats, well, now probably moves like this or lights out, right? Double check. And actually, wait, still, don't get too frisky with this idea, Danny. It doesn't work. But, I mean, let's see here. Even simple moves. Yeah, simple moves are resigning. I mean, I'm up a piece and I'm the one with an attack, right? So, anyway, too bad. I finally lost on live sessions, and that hurts. It hurts real bad. So, anyway, hope you guys had a wonderful day here on chess.com, and enjoy the rest of it. Talk to you later.